So he said that I think it's a bit Weber's well-known definition of the state as having state as a body having a monopoly on the legitimate use of physical force in a given territory is also inadequate. It's not inadequate because, again, Weber's definition point to an essential and very important element which makes or constitutes a state. At least a monopoly over the legitimate use. So you might still have rebels and all that, but their use of force is not considered legitimate. You still might have gangs and bands, physical force over a specific territory, and obviously physical monopoly of physical use is limited by, for example, maybe limited by morality, and also maybe limited by morality and also international law, etc. But that's in a sense voluntary, and in the state of exception, for example, or the states which are in a permanent state of exception like Israel or the US, they use that monopoly, as you can see, and that's one of the defining element of the state, legitimate use of force. But this author, he called this inadequate because he confuses between factual monopoly and ambition. So every state aspires to have a full control over monopoly over legitimate use of physical force, every state by its nature. But how much a state factually can do it will determine whether it's a full-fledged state or a strong state or a weak state, or its claim to the mantle of statehood is just a claim and not actually a substantiated thing or substantiated fact. So Weber's definition is not inadequate for the reason, at least not for the reason which this author has, because factual limitation doesn't mean that this is not what a state actually in its essence try to be. So to the extent that a state doesn't have a monopoly over physical force, it lacks the fullness as a state. Okay, I think this is enough. So next time, inshallah, we will continue from the next section, the third section, which is on the theory of the state.